Welcome to Rage, Grace, and Everything in Between. This podcast is our unfiltered conversation about neurodivergence in every stage of menopause at the same time. Because apparently the universe has jokes. This is a space for those who've spent a lifetime masking, managing, mothering, caretaking, and shape-shifting, only to hit midlife and have it all come crashing down.
Hi, I'm Michelle, postmenopausal, ADHD, and currently running on hot tea and pure determination. For most of my life, I thought I was just too much. Too emotional, too intense, too forgetful, too sensitive, too loud, too obnoxious, too direct, too forward, too scattered. And then perimenopause showed up like a wrecking ball and said, "Oh, you thought you knew yourself. Cute."
And I'm Angel. I'm perimenopausal, ADHD, and honestly just trying to remember what day it is and if I took the laundry out of the dryer. This show is where we tell the truth about all of it. The rage, the tenderness, the brain fog, the clarity, the reinvention, the grief, the liberation, and the hormonal plot twists no one told us about. The days I feel like a superhero and the days I can't remember why I walked into a room.
We're not here as experts. We're here as two neurodivergent midlife women figuring it out in real time. We know there are women out there who feel alone, who think they're broken or failing, who think they're losing their mind. You're not. You're unmasking. You're changing. You're becoming.
This is our space to talk about things women whisper about.
And the things we don't whisper about because we forgot we were supposed to. Some weeks it'll just be us deep diving into neurodivergence, hormones, identity shifts, burnout, reinvention. This is where we stop shrinking and reclaim our voices, our bodies, our boundaries, and ourselves.
And whatever else our brains decide to hyper-focus on that day.
Other weeks, we'll bring in guests, women with stories, experts with insights, people who understand what it means to navigate midlife with a brain that just refuses to follow the manual. If you're a neurodivergent woman in midlife or someone who loves one, this is your space, your permission slip, your exhale, your reminder that you're not crazy, you're not dramatic, and you're definitely not alone.
We are neither polished nor perfect. We are not here to pretend we have it all figured out. We are here to be real, to be honest, to be funny, to be human, to be messy. This is your reminder that you're allowed to take up space.
And forget what you're saying halfway through.
Which we will absolutely do.
Regularly. This is a space for women who are done pretending, for the ones who've spent a lifetime shape-shifting, only to hit midlife and think, what is happening to me? So grab your beverage of choice, lower your expectations, and settle in. Welcome to the conversation. Let's begin. So Angel, why did you want to do this podcast?
For years, I've actually been trying to figure out what to do. You know that Venn diagram where it's like, what do you love? What are you good at? How can you make money? You're good at something, you tell other people, but if you're great at something, they tell you. And it kind of started right about the time that I got diagnosed with ADHD. Years, everybody teased me about having ADHD and blah, blah, blah. Well, I never got diagnosed because I felt like I was just making excuses for being late all the time or being unorganized, and it was just a joke that I had it. I hit 40 and my life became unmanageable. It affected every aspect of my life. At home with my husband, friends, family, work. I was on the verge of getting fired. I went to a psychiatrist, got diagnosed. That confirmation has been life-changing. Started seeing a psychologist for medication and then a therapist to help me find ways to work with my brain to function in society. It helped, but life was still unmanageable. At about 42 years old, I realized I was having all these feelings in my body, and I realized through talking to you and other people, I talked to my mom, that I was in perimenopause. Doctor said I wasn't, but I absolutely was. All this stuff is happening, and then during the holidays, my nephew just busted out in the middle of conversation. He says, "I got it. You would be a streamer." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, you'd grown up with the internet since birth. You would be a streamer." And I'm like, what would I even talk about? And everyone just started, yes, absolutely. And everybody had their own ideas of what I would talk about and what I would do. And nothing landed, nothing fit. And I was like, okay, well, maybe not what they said, but maybe the streaming thing, maybe he's onto something, right? Venn diagram. Continued to do a lot of research with ADHD and perimenopause. And then I came across something that said perimenopause compounds the symptoms of ADHD. And there are scientific reasons. That was my aha moment. It said, You need to talk about this. People need to know about this. I immediately contacted you. You were all in. Yes, absolutely. And so now we're here. 4 years after my ADHD diagnosis, 2 years after noticing perimenopause symptoms, countless hours of research, one rogue comment, and a phone call later. Here we are. What about you, Michelle?
With a background in yoga therapy, one of the things that we do is help people reframe their past experiences. As I mentioned in the intro, I have always been too much, too loud, too forward, too straight, too direct.
All the things I love about you.
All the things, right? In the last several years, I have lost a few jobs due to a lot of the too many things. Also, around the same time that this started happening, my daughter knew she was neurodivergent, was doing a lot of research, working with therapists, getting accommodations, the model that she was going to need for success in her life, neurodivergence being a hereditary thing. I started to realize that a lot of my too many things fit right in line with a neurodiverse diagnosis. Around 2021, I think she got her diagnosis. Towards the end of 2021, we did DNA tests for genealogy and found my biological father at age 52. We had about a 3-hour conversation the first time we met him. And within the first 5 minutes, her and I looked at each other, made eye contact, light bulbs lit up.
It was obvious.
It was obvious. It was obvious. Like, this man was the embodiment of every difficulty I've had in my life. Listening to his history, he had all the same experiences.
Parallel.
But just recognizing all of these things led me to seek out my own diagnosis. One of the things that happens when you either make the connection by doing one of those online tests or an assessment with a professional, especially with autism.
There's a name for it. I'm looking it up. The time period after diagnosis is called something.
A replay of all of these moments in your life. For me, it was tell me you have autism without telling me you have autism moments. I grew up in a time where nobody would have ever looked at me and said, you might have autism. I don't even think I remember hearing the word autism until I was maybe late teens, early 20s. But for me, it was basically being able to go back with a perspective of understanding what neurodivergence is and thinking, how did nobody ever say, hey, Michelle, maybe go get checked out for this?
Because they didn't know.
One of the things that I have discovered in my research is high intelligent, high masking, late diagnosed neurodivergence. It gets missed because from a young age, we develop an ability to model normal behaviors so that we don't experience as many challenges. I've been called a weirdo. I've been called a freak. I've been called a nerd, a dork, all the things. I knew I was different. I didn't have the language to understand why I was different and how to navigate all of the different challenges that I was going to have in my lifetime. Post-diagnosis, it's been 4 years and I still continue to have random memories pop up in my head where I go, oh, that was autism. I believe most neurodivergent people that have a later in life diagnosis experience that.
Oh yeah, I definitely do. And especially in researching it, you don't realize how many parts of your personality or things that you do relate to the neurodiversity. What is it, RSV? And I didn't even realize I had it until I was reading about it. And I was like, I think I have it. I know friends who have it. I have one who has it extreme. RSD. Rejection sensitive dysphoria. Thinking people don't like you. I have a friend who's are you mad at me?
I constantly experience that.
I didn't really realize that I had it because my self-esteem isn't very low, but my thought process is, if you don't like me, that's fine. I was okay with people not liking me as long as it's not somebody close in my life. But I have a friend. I love her to death. I don't think there's anything she could do. I would help her bury a body. She's constantly, why are you mad at me? I'm not mad at you. Why don't you like me? I love you. What are you talking about?
As an autism trait of having difficulties with social things, my whole life I was so afraid of being left out because I was frequently left out of things because I've always made things more difficult than they needed to be. I remember an incident when I was a teenager. Our whole family was camping, aunts and uncles and cousins, and the cousins I just dearly loved and such a great time with. I was a deep sleeper. You could literally pick me up and move me while I was sleeping and I wouldn't wake up. The kids were all sleeping in a tent separate from the adults. The kids were all going to get up and sneak out and go skinny dipping. They left me out of it because they were afraid that it would take so much effort to wake me up that it would disturb the grown-ups and then spoil the fun. I got left out of a lot of things because I just made a lot of things more difficult than they needed to be. I asked a lot of questions. I have had people say, "You're so negative, Michelle." It's not for lack of joy. It's not for lack of excitement. It's not for lack of enjoying things. I notice every detail and I am constantly weighing risks, trying to prevent myself from being ostracized.
Trying to fit in. Instead of being able to relax and belong as who you are wholly as a person.
The way that menopause steps in and steps on, all of those little characteristics. Like I always laugh and say it should be called mental pause. Words just disappear, having to stop in the middle of something to look something up. You can't move on until you have...
Yeah, and you can't move on. So we have the perimenopause. So stuff just leaves our brain and we're neurodivergent. So we can't move on until we know.
You can't watch a movie or a TV show without constantly
pausing,
looking things up on the internet. And then I have to stop and rewind because I have to hear all the dialogue. I have to see all of the things that are happening because I can't put the pictures together and understand the plot story if I miss something.
It really affects every part of life. Affects our work, watching TV, conversations with friends. I have to give myself space in between doing things. I can't go from here and go and clean my house. I can go from here and go grocery shopping, but I'm not going grocery shopping and then food prepping. That's not going to happen. And the older I get and the deeper into this I get, the longer I need. I can't go from hanging out with friends and family and then come home and go to bed. I used to need a minimum of an hour. Now I need 2 hours. I can do less. I am also in that phase of life where I'm accepting who I am and what I'm capable of. I let people know, and people is primarily my husband. I am at capacity that I can't do what he's asking me to do or what's quote unquote required. Then I speak up for myself more now.
Yeah. Like Emily calls it bandwidth. She always says, I don't have the bandwidth for that. And
I say I'm at capacity. So everybody has, once you learn that about yourself, and getting the diagnosis has helped me a lot with that. And I think just being in perimenopause and being unwilling to put up with crap you used to put up with,
boundaries,
helps give me voice, set my boundaries.
Because you can't pour from an empty cup. What was it you said in the intro about mothering?
Yes. I'm not even anybody's mom.
We spend so much time moderating ourselves to appease everybody else instead of working on what will make us our best selves, to make ourselves more acceptable, pleasing to everyone else. That's not thriving. That's just barely surviving. I talk with my friends all the time about how it takes so much mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual energy to mask, to fit in, to appease everyone else. There's not enough bandwidth left to be our best selves, to live our best lives. And I don't want that for myself, and I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for any of you. Hopefully, during our conversations here, we will cover some tips, tricks, life hacks, mindful moments that will track to something that you're experiencing and that's messing with your zen, that's taking away your peace, that's keeping you from thriving.
We just like to talk about it and hang out, and
hopefully we'll try to stick to a single or a group of topics in each episode, but as we like to do, we meander, we tangent, we have fun.
And we will have more fun the more of these we do and get more comfortable we get in front of the camera, because right now it feels like a lot of masking.
we do hope that you have a little grace in watching us. We understand that there will be a lot of aspects of our show that may ping to your tisms, as we're not professionals, so we may not get the aspects right. We may try to cultivate this background, but for now it might just be as chaotic as my brain is. We'll do our best. But also, feel free in the comments, not just rage, but grace.
Constructive criticism.
Be kind in letting us know what would make this a more pleasant or a more useful or a more beneficial experience for you. What are the things you struggle with? What are the challenges that pop up in your life? What are some strategies for success that you have stumbled across or developed on your own? Because for us late diagnosed neurodivergent people, a lot of our lifetime has been spent creating systems, whether they're healthy or not, make accommodations for ourselves.
And even before diagnosis, I had set things in place that I didn't realize were like ADHD accommodations for myself. Like my calendar is my lifeline. And it's funny because after diagnosis, when the brain opens up and you start noticing things, my mother had 3 wall calendars. One was like her personal, whatever's going on with her. One was like kids, and one was extended family. She's been dealing with it for years. I promise you, if I told her today that she had ADHD, she wouldn't believe me, but she absolutely does.
Planners, calendars, schedulers are brilliant if you use them.
Yes.
I have boxes, calendars, schedulers, planners, where the first 10 pages,
No, yeah, I use my phone now.
And yeah, I have journals that, the first 15 pages are written in, and like I'll open a journal. I started it in 2021. And
I can't, if I buy like a physical like journal, it can't be dated because I'm going to pick it up 2 years later and say, okay, I can use this. Yeah.
But I mean, even if I use a notebook, 2021, and for 3 weeks, I'll be really phenomenal at it. And then maybe there'll be an entry from July, and then maybe an entry from December, and then an entry from 2024.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about keeping track of things.
Yeah.
Of what am I doing tomorrow, which doesn't always help in perimenopause because I don't know what day it is half the time.
Tools are excellent if you are disciplined in using them, but don't be so hard on yourself if these things don't work for you because you can't stick to them. I mean, that's literally the definition of neurodivergence, is that things that typically work don't work because you are not neurotypical.
In 10th grade, I started using a notebook. In my 20s, smartphone. I can have phone and my calendar all in one. And then all of a sudden, that wasn't good enough because I was mixing up my days. I not only have my calendar, but I have to set the notifications for the day before, and maybe like an hour or two before. So
yeah,
I've had to modify it throughout the years.
Yeah, as I'm making an appointment at the dentist to come back, putting notifications in. If it's more than a month out, I will set a notification to send me an email the week before, an email 3 days before, an email the day before, and then a notification every hour for about 5 hours leading up to the event, because it's maddening how many times I have let people down, and then perimenopause happened. Your brain literally just goes on pause. I know we've talked about hot flashes. You have a very different experience. But for me, when I would have a hot flash, I would just literally shut down. I remember because my first hot flash was November 1st, 2015 at 2 a.m. And I remember it.
Autism.
Tell me you're autistic without telling me you're autistic. I can remember what I saw when I opened my eyes like it was yesterday. I was teaching yoga full time at that time. I would be in the middle of teaching a class, and I would have to wear a sweater because, again, temperature regulation. And I would be standing in front of the class either modeling poses or sharing stories or talking about different aspects of yogic life. And a hot flash would happen. It always starts with an aura. People with seizure disorders will understand what I mean by auras, like a sense where you literally feel the switch flip. And then I would slowly start to turn red. The heat would start to rise. Anything that I was thinking about, anything that I was doing, everything halts. It's just an absolute choke point. And I would look around the room and I'd go, I apologize. I'm having a hot flash. It'll be over soon. For a while I would carry around note cards or like church fans or, something. And I would start with my mantra. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be a woman. And I always say, The nicest thing about being a woman is you never have a surprise boner in public, right? That's the payoff. That's the payoff is no surprise boners, but hot flashes. And they would sometimes last for 30 seconds. They would sometimes last for 3 minutes. Once the hot flash was starting to dial down, then I could pick back up where I left off, or sometimes I would just have to start from a new starting point because whatever was there was gone. Add on to it, your brain isn't wired in a typical way anyways, so there's all those deficits on top of hormonal impasse.
And actually, that's a lot of reasons why I contacted you to see if you wanted to do this podcast with me is because of your neurodiversity, your level of self-awareness, where you are in life with the menopause, and there's a lot of experiences that you and I have that are opposite.
Very different.
Very different. Where you have not been able to take medication or hormones or anything like that. I have been lucky enough that I have been able to. I found ADHD medication that works. I don't take it every day. I feel that my body doesn't produce dopamine the way everybody else's does, so that when I'm taking a stimulant every day for a while, I can feel that my body is just working way too hard and I need to reset.
Yeah.
So I will reset. I just started hormone replacement therapy, which I'm grateful for, but even before that I experienced one hot flash for about 10 seconds and it was the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life. And I freaked out and I said, please no. That was literally the first and last time I had a hot flash. I do get really warm. I do have a difficult time regulating my body temperature. Yeah. I do get really hot to where I need to open up all the windows, turn the heat down in the middle of the night, and I do get really cold. So I get really cold. Yeah. And I need to put a sweater on. But I understand, and I also understand why our bodies do that, which is, what we're going to be discussing on this podcast. Not only what's going on, but the why. We are incapable of not doing the reason. You know what I mean? Of not questioning. I think that's part of our neurodiversity too, is that when we ask questions, we search for the answer.
It's a neurodivergent trait to need to know what's going to happen. We don't handle surprises really well. I planned my surprise 40th birthday party with my best friend, and we did it for my 39th birthday so that I would be surprised. When I got to the party, everybody for the whole night kept going, "You were so surprised, Michelle." And I was like, "Yes, I was." I planned the whole thing because we don't enjoy surprises. If I can't figure the plot of a movie out in the first 30 minutes, I pause the movie, look it up, and then go back to watching the movie. I love watching how movies unfold. I don't like not knowing how they're going to end. Not a lot of spontaneity. Not that I'm not spontaneous. If somebody called me and said, "Hey, do you want to go to this place today?" Yeah, for sure.
And I've done that too 100 times.
I love stuff like that. In general, I like to know what's going to happen. I don't know where I was going with this.
So you talk about autism and ADHD combination. From what I've read, there's a lot of coexisting. Like symptoms. If you have one thing, you probably have another thing. If you have one
autoimmune.
If you have one autoimmune disorder, you probably have another. Neurodiversity, if you have one, you probably have something else.
Right.
Well, pretty sure I'm not autistic. And so I was sitting in the car one day just by myself and I'm like, do I have OCD? And then I walk in the house and I do something and my husband says, "Okay, Miss OCD." And I was like, oh.
Right.
And then I said something to my friends. I'm like, I think I have control issues. They're like, you don't know that?
Tell me you're neurodivergent without telling me you're neurodivergent.
They're like, how did you? It's not that I enjoy planning parties. If somebody else misses something, it drives me up. I need to know that everything's taken care of.
Yeah, of people not doing things the right way.
Especially when it's affects something big. In my 20s, I would have a party and completely forget non-alcoholic beverages. I had a Halloween party with 3 pregnant women, and all I had was water as non-alcoholic beverage. I didn't have pop. I didn't have a 2-liter of pop. So a lot of it too is from experience.
Which is funny because you usually have mixers at least. Usually when you have a party, you have alcoholic beverages and you have mixers.
Yeah.
So the non-drinking people had juice and
I can't even tell you
and...
what we had, but for whatever reason, we didn't even have mixers.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? But
well, I'll tell you.
I think a lot of my control issues stem from me screwing up so much, really.
Speaking of mixers, I remember how offended I was when I found out that Long Island iced tea had no tea in it.
Oh, your poor brain.
My first Long Island iced tea, I was so confused. I was like, there's no tea in it. An aspect of autism is we take things very literally.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine call me one day. And I was a teenager at home with my mom. She calls me, says, "Do you want to come over for Long Island iced teas?" I was like, "No." Hang up the phone and I tell my mom. She called me and invited me over for Long Island iced teas. Why do I want to come over and drink tea? I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Well, and then I know a lot of neurodiverse people who have substance issues. It had a double-edged purpose. One was dulling the noise, and the other was that's what everybody does. If you're trying to mask like a normal person.
If you're trying to fit in.
Because our dopamine problems, we get into trouble with substances, and not just substances, anything that you can be addicted to. You know, anything that triggers a dopamine release can be way overdone in a neurodivergent's life. And then you add menopause, we probably should eliminate most of those substances from our life. It's doing menopause no help using substances.
I cut way back on alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, I drink it once in a while at a nice dinner, like your son's dinner or something, and get a little buzz. But outside of that,
I
can't.
I have greatly reduced.
But I've also discovered that perimenopause, it affects our gut bugs, the way we digest things and process things in our gut. Like, it affects our hormones, affect everything.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to bring in some Ayurvedic techniques too.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
But you forget so many things. Like sometimes you have so many tools in your toolbox. You keep reaching for the one wrench, the one screwdriver, and the one hammer, and let them fit all because it's just too overwhelming to dig through the box. But there's always something more perfect.
Things that you can do, like the Ayurveda. What is it?
Ayurvedic.
Ayurveda
is the science of yoga. So a mindful minute, just a real simple one for our first episode. I learned this when my grandmother first started having dementia. She started exhibiting a lot of signs of anxiety. I started doing I used to call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but you can do it as simple as 3, 2, 1. When you need a reset, when your mind is spiraling, when you're starting to panic a little, or just you want to do a transition, like you said, from one thing to the next, you want to do a transition, you want to do just a little mental reset. You can name 3 things you can see, 2 things that you can hear, or 2 things you can touch and 1 thing you can hear. So it helps ground you to your environment. And you say, I can see my bulletin board. I can see my computer. I can see my tote bags. I can touch this table. I can touch this chair. I can hear people talking in the other room. These things ground you to the physical space you're in and bring you present. Present meaning this moment here. Because one of the things that anxiety does is you are worried about something in the future. Bringing you to the present moment takes you out of that future and into the present. It grounds you. It puts you here in this space, in this physical locality, this moment. If you want to go deeper, you can go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So if I want to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I can't remember. Let me look it up.
Okay.
But, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things you can see. 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
I would have to write that down and have it on a board.
You can just list things in your environment, or you don't even have to list them out loud. Just look around and mentally check in with your environment to ground yourself and bring yourself back. We hope that you enjoy this content. We hope that you subscribe and like and share with friends and associates that and family members that might benefit from this. So we hope that you have enjoyed our unfiltered conversation about navigating neurodivergence and every stage of menopause. We hope that you enjoy this community and that you'll come back. That's all I have. How about you?
Yeah, that's it. We'll see you soon.